Xander Schauffele was one of the brightest stars in the game, and a golfer destined for greatness. Whatever he was doing was working, except if you studied it closely, because if you did that, you would have noticed some small leaks starting to appear. Xander noticed them, so late last year, he began making some changes to fix them. And almost 12 months later, it proved to be his masterstroke.
Xander with victory at Valhalla!
But what were these changes? And what did it unlock in his game that brought his results to the next level? Let's dive in. To understand Xander's ascension from good to great, you have to start with his distance numbers. Xander was never a short hitter by any means when he first arrived on the PGA Tour, sort of a solidly above average driver. But distance quickly became the name of the game in professional golf, and for the most part, it was a matter of the more of it, the better. So Xander started hitting the weights and doing speed training sessions. It worked. In the last 5 seasons, he's gone from being 3.5 miles per hour faster than the average PGA Tour player to more than 7 miles per hour faster. The whole tour has gotten faster over this time, but Xander, his gains have outpaced his peers. It's how he jumped from outside the top 40 in swing speed on tour to now inside the top 10. That may not seem like a massive leap, but in a game dominated by speed and distance, Xander now has elite speed.
You see that ball speed there, 183. He's turned this club into a weapon this season.
So from a speed perspective, it worked. But along the way, Xander's golf swing actually began to change. One way you could spot this was on his takeaway. Xander would start stretching his arms and club further and further away from his body. This in itself isn't bad. It's a powerful move because it creates a big stretch in some key muscles in golfers' upper body. But in Xander's case, the way he stretched his arms out also had the effect of pushing his right shoulder down slightly, a move which, incidentally, is popping up in Rory's golf swing these days. It meant that Xander's shoulders would turn too flat or level to the ground rather than more on an incline. To compensate for this slightly flat shoulder turn, Xander started moving his arms more upright. This led to the club getting slightly laid off at the top of his backswing, and his lead wrist getting more and more bowed. You can see clearly here in this comparison of his swing from 2018 to 2022. A shallower shoulder angle, a more bowed left wrist, and a laid-off, closed club face. From this position, you would often see Xander get a little steep as he moved towards the ball. Xander managed this move pretty well. He won lots of events with it, but would also occasionally break down, especially under pressure. His misses could go in either direction, like here, this Golf Digest shoot late last year, where you can see him signaling for right. This kind of stuff can happen when the forces of your golf swing are ever so slightly misaligned. One source issue can cause 2 or 3 other problems later on in your golf swing. Think of it like building a house. If you place one brick just slightly off, it can cause the whole structure to get wonky. So Xander wanted to tune up his technique, and he issued a kind of bake-off with various coaches to decide who should help him do it. He eventually landed on Golf Digest top 50 teacher Chris Como at the start of 2024. Soon after, I asked him why he made that move.
Looked at my swing since I've been on tour, from 17 up until now, and sort of how it's changed and sort of what he liked then and what he liked now and vice versa. So, I think he sort of understands my release pattern and just kind of wants to unlock that potential.
Together, the pair set about tweaking things, mainly by trying to feel Xander's left shoulder moving more down towards the ground, and his right shoulder working up more towards the sky. It's why you can often spot Xander doing this rehearsal move between shots. Xander can still feel the width of his arms on the backswing, but when he works his left shoulder down and his right shoulder up, it means Xander's shoulders can turn on more of an incline. When he does this helps pull his arms deeper and more around his body on the backswing rather than out. It's why they land more in line at the top of his backswing these days, and less laid off. His lead wrist is now in a more neutral position too, rather than severely bowed as it was before. Here's Chris Como himself on the changes he made with Xander.
His backswing was kind of flattish a bit with his shoulder plane and even his arms, and the club was getting kind of laid off, which in and of itself isn't necessarily like a bad thing. But he was hitting a couple shots, especially under pressure, that he didn't necessarily love. And for me, early on, I try to do a deep dive on the history of a person's game and their swing, etc. And I was like, send me as many swings as you have from as early as you have. And the backswing had different shapes throughout the course of his career. And then we start to correlate that to, times that he'd driven his best. It seemed that it was in a somewhat different place. And then, kind of along with that, just like his overall, what I would call his release pattern, the way his wrists and forearms and the club face come into the ball, I felt that, it would match better to a slightly more across the line spot with a slightly steeper shaft plane.
Now that the forces are more aligned, Xander can spend less energy on counteracting different moves in his golf swing and more on simply swinging faster. The matchups are better now, so timing has just gotten so much easier. It's how he was able to upgrade his speed even more this season without sacrificing any accuracy. In fact, when you look at the data, you'll find that Xander isn't just hitting the ball longer in 2024, he's also hitting the ball straighter. Xander's increased his driving accuracy from less than 58% to over 62%. A small change, it seems, but he's turned a weakness into a strength. He's longer and faster now, and more accurate than the tour average. But perhaps the true lesson isn't the changes Xander made, but in how he made them. He didn't just stop working on his golf swing when he was playing well, or tear it all down after one bad round. He dropped in the changes, gradually, every day, on the course and on the range, slowly and consistently, after good days and after bad. Every day, he'd make a small change to make his golf swing a little better. The definition of getting 1% better every day. From small changes, he saw major results, and soon after, major trophies.